Light FM. I'm torn. Natalie Hambruglia there. 8:42 now. It's 18 before 9. Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Second Half Financial Partners, LLC does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation. And that means it's time to check in on money, where Philip Statler from Statler Financial Services in downtown Sebring is standing by on the phone. Philip, good morning. We got a really quiet government data dump day ahead of us. I'll bet you that means... Don't ask me what that is. There. I was trying to wake the markets up because they pretty much went into a doze yesterday morning, I think, and stayed there all dang day, didn't they?
They did. It was not a good day yesterday, and right now I'm not seeing much in the way of follow through to move us up any either, Dave.
It's I was starting to mention that there's nothing on the government data dump stuff, which means we're as much as anything following war news and following talking heads talking about oil prices. And just to set the table for the morning, it was not a major sell-off like it had been a couple of days ago, but still everything was red. Dow fell another 204 points. S&P 500 fell another 18 points yesterday. NASDAQ was down another 62. It wasn't like a panic sell-off, but it's like we're doing a repricing based upon the moving target as to how fast the war is going to end. I was kind of hoping that the combination of Netanyahu and Trump yesterday, both basically saying that they figured things were slowing down and that they were almost at the end, might improve our humor, but basically nothing good happened all day long in the markets, did they?
Well, except for the Russell. The Russell 2000 actually ended up over 0.6% higher.
Huh?
Yeah, so I guess the broad base must have liked what they talked about.
And that's better because the tech stocks did not have a good day, and they were led by you and I were both kind of half giggling about this. High-tech glamour company stock, Supermicro, is absolutely tanking this morning after the feds found out that their employees, and I gather you found out it was some of the executive suite people too, were smuggling NVIDIA chips over into mainland China. Now, I don't know whether that actually qualifies as treason, but economically it certainly is. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, and let's be clear, Supermicro Computer was not specifically named or charged in this process. However, the co-founder was, and one of the executives, and then another manager, and a third was a contractor. So it was not pretty. It's really got Supermicro getting beat up this morning by association. They're down almost 25% this morning.
Yeah, the company itself might very well not be in trouble with the Justice Department, but the market was judge, jury, and executioner, weren't they?
They were. And let's remember, the report came out earlier this week, and they had a good quarter. And so the only thing I can think is that stockholders are looking at that and saying, well, if they hadn't have sold those computers to the Asian companies that sent them to China, maybe their earnings wouldn't have been quite so good.
I'm kind of wondering whether anybody's combing through the books looking for a little item saying other income. if they kept it in the books at all. That kind of led, and it really did contribute nicely to the NASDAQ decline in the process. Tidbit we were talking about before we went on the air, we talk about the price of oil, and yeah, keeping it under 100 is obviously a psychological point for the markets to at the very least keep us from tanking, but J.P. Morgan came up with numbers yesterday that are almost scary. For every sustained 10% increase in oil prices, the J.P. Morgan economists say that gross domestic product growth for us could be cut by between 0.15% and 0.2%. Since we're up like 25% on oil, means we've already lopped off something close to 0.6% gross domestic product growth. If anybody's worried about that $95 oil being under 100, and that's good news. Well, it is, everything being relative, but this is costing us with virtually every passing day, isn't it?
It is, and we don't. The uncertainty right now, Dave, is how long is it going to last?
Yeah.
I've had some discussions with clients and people and some other folks that really, they're tuned in. They're just like focused on this stuff, and some of them actually used to work for the government, so they have some maybe better insights than you and I do as how things work. But they don't think it's going to be long lived. But who knows, right? We don't know. Nobody knows. The only thing I do know, again, like I said yesterday, is that if Trump wants to have any chance of holding on to his little majority in the Senate, and the what he has in Congress now, something's got to change before election time.
Yeah, we got to hit sunshine somewhere in there. I think you and I, and evidently your clients, agree on that front. That being in an unpopular war, or one that there's a widespread doubt as to the necessity of it. That's a decent way to put it. That borders on shooting oneself in the foot during the midterm elections, because anybody that's on his side of the fence is in jeopardy simply on the grounds they're losing 5 to 7 points in the election just for the controversy surrounding the war itself. So President Trump has a really strong incentive to do something. And yeah, so far the intense air war side of it looks like we've made the dent we needed to make. Now the question is, what's the end game at the end of it? And nobody's really talking clearly about that.
No, they're not. And so, we'll have to just wait and see. And that's the hard part right now.
Absolutely. Other tidbits out this morning, something out of Jay Powell's press conference the other day that I got kind of a bang out of. In his press conference, he said his intentions were to stay on as Fed chair until the Senate confirms his replacement. You put that together with the fact that the Justice Department is going to try to appeal those rulings that threw a lot of the Fed investigations out the window. They're going to try to keep those investigations alive. There's a couple of senators who will not vote for his successor until they close those investigations. Jay Powell could be Fed chair for life here.
That could be interesting, right?
Now, that's kind of interesting. Of course, the Trump administration is doing everything they can, short of the National Guard, to get him out. You've got another Mexican standoff on your hand at the Federal Reserve chair, because until the investigation into the Fed ends, there's at least one Republican senator, and they can't spare any votes, who will not even allow it to come to a vote. And there's a couple of others who are saying we're not going to vote for a successor until the investigation is dropped. Jay Powell may have more job security than he realizes.
Well, yeah, it will be interesting in the days to come.
Yeah, just adds more uncertainty to things as they go. Mentioned at the outset, there's not a lot of government data coming out today. Those are tidbits from my list. You were watching the reports that came out. FedEx, we talk about an energy-dependent stock. They've got to be the poster child of that. How did they do last quarter, and what do they think about what's ahead?
They really had a good quarter, Dave. They beat earnings by over $1 a share. I mean, like way over $1 a share, $5.25 a share. Revenue was ahead of expectations by about $500 million. And then they also hiked their fiscal year guidance for earnings. So you got to like it. They're trading up a little over 7.5% this morning.
Wowzers. I'm really surprised by the guidance with the oil price uncertainty out there.
Well, I guess you got to ship packages, right?
Yeah, you got to do it one way or the other, even if it costs too much, right?
That's right. They'll just add that, that fuel surcharge.
I also hear they're in the mix as far as the thing with Amazon and their shipping contracts. Amazon's got their own delivery service these days, and they've been threatening to dump the post office as one of their primary carriers and use their own deliveries instead of that. I kind of wonder if the expectation is that FedEx will be a beneficiary of that.
I don't know. I mean, because I have a couple clients that work for the Postal Service, and they've enjoyed that the distribution centers opened up in Lake Placid, because that has really cut back on their mail delivery. But let's face it, they're going to use the most inexpensive way to deliver that they can get it there when it needs to be there. And FedEx and UPS aren't it.
You're absolutely true. Don't know which direction it's going to go, but at least across the country, the UPS and FedEx route appears to be their favorite at the moment. But the last mile delivery, that distribution center, I see Amazon trucks now delivering to my place instead of the traditional method all the time.
Yep, all over the place. So.
Other indications you might have this morning?
I found an interesting one. I've never followed this company, but it just caught me by surprise, I guess. Planet Labs. It's interesting. They're a satellite imagery company. So I guess maybe they help people like Google do Google Maps, maybe. I don't know. But they had a really good quarter, such that they were expected to lose like 5 cents a share. Instead, they broke even. And they raised their guidance going up. And so they were trading as much as up 15%. Let's see where they are right now. Oh, up almost 21% this morning.
I'm going to have to look them up and see who they supply because I hadn't heard of that company before.
Yeah, me either. That was, I thought that was pretty cool.
Somebody likes them.
Yeah, not much else out there. We talked about super microcomputers. So everything else is kind of we're really getting to the end here of earnings season.
Getting into gossip season instead of earnings season. Resetting the table here was kind of an evenly down day for the blue chips yesterday, and for the NASDAQ, it was amazing. The Russell actually gained a little 45 minutes before we opened. What are we looking at this morning?
We're seeing some improvement, Dave, in the futures. However, they are still red. Don't get me wrong, but they have improved. The Dow right now is down 0.2%. It was down almost double that earlier. S&P 500 is down 0.2. NASDAQ 100 is down 0.33%. Russell 2000 is down about 0.3% this morning. On the other side, silver's trying to recoup a little bit, up 1.1%, back over 70 at $72 an ounce. Gold's up 1.6%, $4,679 an ounce. Crude oil heading down 0.6% this morning, below 95, $94.98 a barrel.
Crossing my fingers, $95 is another one of those psychological things that we want to see it under as well. I don't know whether they'll react. Looking across the ponds, the Asian Rim pretty much had some selective bloodbaths yesterday. The Japanese markets were down by over 3%. Mainland Chinese markets were off on average over 1% as well. On the other side, though, over in the European community, they got a little optimism going there. The average European index is halfway through their trading day is up by a little over 0.25%. So it's all green in Europe and it's all red in Asia. 45 minutes before we open, things are kind of a mixed bag all over, it sounds like. And that means my retirement plans are getting more confusing with every passing day. How do I find you to get a plan for my retirement?
Dave, I'd love to spend 30 minutes on the phone with folks to make sure that they are on the right path to the retirement they dreamed of. To do that, all they have to do is give us a call at 863-382-0037 to schedule that time. And then join us this weekend for the Statler Financial Radio Show, 6 a.m. and noon on Saturday, 10 a.m. Sunday morning on Highlands News Talk, 7:30 a.m., 95.3 FM.
And online at newstalk730am.com. You have a marvelous race weekend, my friend, and we'll talk next week, all right?
All right, buddy. Take care.
Thank you. It's 105.7 Light FM and Statler Financial Services. Philip Statler.
Hey, folks, have a great weekend. I look forward to speaking to you again next week. Tune in on Tuesday. I'll see you then. Bye now.